All right, should we get this party started? Actually, hang on a second. Before we do, if you guys don't mind, I'm gonna take a quick, I like to start these things off with a quick selfie here. Will you guys get involved with me here? Let's see. All right, so if you would, on the count of 3, say JavaScript, all right? 1, 2, 3. JavaScript. Oh. I think you turned it off. Oh, I did, didn't I? Thank you. I was like, my phone keeps dying. I charged it overseas, and ever since then it keeps dying at like 30%. So that's what I thought happened there, and now it's not responding. Come on, phone. All right. Where'd that go now? All right. Sorry about that. One more time. All right. This time for real. 1, 2, 3. All right. Thank you. I think I only got the Java, but no, I'm good. I'm good.
I'll give you a reminder, a 10-minute warning.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I think I only got the Java on that, so it might confuse some people, but that's all right. Oh, did my thing? Oh, now this went away. Who's the pro up here, right? There we go. I'm gonna tweet that so you guys can we can all get involved here. So yeah, speaking of pro, who does slides in Photoshop? Am I the only weirdo that does slides in Photoshop? So don't mind, those are actually my speaker notes on the side. They're all the file names. So yeah, my name is Joe Sepi. I'm here to talk to you about quick and tasty APIs. I'm the lead developer evangelist for the Strong Loop team at IBM. And yeah, APIs. So all talks need cats, right? But this is a tasty API talk, so I had a little bit of a dilemma. And actually, that cat's scary. So all talks need cute cats. So I'm thinking, how do I get cats into my tasty talk? So tasty talk is probably, burgers or something, which that one I think is a sweet potato burger. It kind of looks pretty good. So what to do? Maybe something like that, or this guy here, the Cat Big Mac. That one? No? I think that one might be my favorite. No, that one's my favorite. So we're gonna go with cat burgers. We're gonna go with nice knitted cat burgers. That's what our tasty talk's gonna be about, the cat burgers talk. So all right, so where am I going with this? You've got your boss man, and he says we need a cat burger API and we need it fast. By the way, this you probably know this is Tim Gunn. I watched Project Runway, and there's a designer on there who, whenever he walks up, he's like, "Hey, boss man." So that's why I'm using Tim Gunn there. So you, as an engineer, you're thinking, all right, the boss man, he wants his cat burger API. He wants it fast, right? Because he's got a website, he's got a mobile version of the website that was probably built by some third-party company that you can't get updated, and you got a mobile app, an iOS app, an Android app, and you don't have APIs to support all these. So he wants that figured out. So you're sitting there thinking, all right, what do I do here? I'm a JavaScript engineer. So naturally, I'm gonna wanna use JavaScript. So I'm thinking about Node. I like open source, so we don't get tied down to any proprietary stuff. And I like to be involved in open source and support the community, and we kind of all work together. And I need it fast. So let's see. I'm going to choose Loopback. I'm going to choose it because it's open source. It's built on top of Express, which is super mature and stable. I think so many Node applications out on the web are using Express. It's super fast, and it's supported by IBM. So a quick little plug here. IBM has a product called API Connect, and it's sort of like an enterprise version of loopback when you want more robust security and management and stuff like that. But it has loopback at its core, so it behooves them to make sure loopback is solid and all up to speed. So let me ask the room real quickly. Has anybody heard of loopback? Raise hands. No? Yeah, a few. So I was going to ask if anybody's using loopback. Yeah, okay. Any other, I guess, what else? I can't, now I'm blanking as to what like the alternatives are. I mean, I guess there's like Happy and stuff, but that's more of an express alternative. So, okay. So you've chosen loopback. Boss man's like, all right, cool. So you said rapid, right? As in fast? Because we need to get this out the door. So, all right. So now we're going with loopback. How do we get started? So the first thing obviously you need is Node. And I'm sure a lot of you folks out there have used Node before, but if you haven't, go to nodejs.org. You can curl for it, Homebrew or NVM. I'm using NVM, but sometimes it's a little glitchy or gives me issues with where it's installing packages. So I'd say if you don't need to manage your versions of NVM or of Node, which that's what NVM is, a Node version manager, then just do the nodejs.org install for those who don't already have it. Yeah, anyway. So, all right, so we've got Node, which of course comes with NPM, the Node package manager, and we install strong loop. You may ask, why is it strong loop when I'm doing loopback? Well, loopback was created by strong loop, and when you install strong loop, you get a number of tools that kind of come along with it, a process manager, a nice UI for your API Explorer, which I'll show in a few minutes. But at its core is loopback. And it also includes Yeoman, which does awesome scaffolding, which is kind of what we're going to look at a bunch here. Right? So, all right, so we've installed strong loop. Now we have access to the strong loop command line, right? So I'm crazy and I'm going to start doing some live coding. So let's see, is this, let's get this big enough, right? Bigger, 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 bigger. All right, so let's get this party started. You guys like living by the seat of your pants here, live coding? Oh, is that too big? Let's see. I need a little bit of room to type in my responses. Is that big enough for everyone? Yeah? Okay, good. So, all right. As you can tell here, I don't know if any of you are familiar with Yeoman. You'd see the butler-like guy. I think it was maybe created by Adi Osmani a while ago. But it's a really fantastic scaffolding, code generator. And it's built into loopback. That's one of the tools that kind of comes along with the whole package. I'm actually trying to talk really slowly, but I've had 8 shots of espresso, so please forgive me. All right, so cool. We've got our interactive CLI that comes along with loopback. Our boss man wants us to get a cat burger API going, right? So the first thing it asks you is to name the directory, but by default it chooses the name that you've named the application, which is awesome. So we say, all right. You can see there, it's already created a cat burger directory. It asks us what kind of version of which loopback version we want. 3 is still alpha, so we're going to stick with the stable 2.x. And here we get a couple of options for what sort of loopback application you want to scaffold out. So there is where is it? The empty server is kind of just a real bare bones loopback application. There's a hello world one, which has a little bit more, a notes one, which has even more, basic working examples and such. But we're going to stick with the API server example. Excuse my Trump sniffles here. All right, cool. So we have, let's see, does it say here? So it's generated our Yeoman RC file, and it's created our, config files, a couple of folders and files, right? So now it's running npm install. Oh no, I didn't even think of this. Is it pulling from cache? I didn't even try to get on the Wi-Fi. Uh-oh. Rookie mistake. What is the Wi-Fi here?
CHF conference center.
CHF Wi-Fi? No, that. And what's the password?
0102030405.
Nice. Come on. Okay. Let's see, is that going to work? I actually had this all set up, and I was like, oh, and then I'll just switch over to that one. But then I said, no, let's just do it. It'll be fast. All right, let me just do that really quickly again. See if this works better. So, crap. RM-RF cat burger. See, live coding. We're partying here. It's always an adventure. So, all right. So now you can see how fast. I actually gave this talk in 5 minutes at a lightning talk a week ago at a conference. So we can do this. API server, there it goes. All right, so as I was saying, it's already created out our, we have a server directory, we have some config files, there's a boot directory as well. There are a bunch of NPM warnings, I think, with version 3, but that shouldn't be a problem. So let me actually, oh, is it almost done? So close. So I'm going to cd into code /liberty/catburger, should be there. And we're just going to go ahead and open this up real quickly. Just to kind of show you what we get scaffolded out, right? So there's nothing in the client because we haven't really done much left yet. But there's some basic stuff going on in our server directory. All right, so now we've got our loopback application installed. We've got all our NPM modules installed. It gives you some helpful things to get started, which we will follow along a little bit here. So we're going to go into our catburger directory. And I just showed you kind of what ends up coming out of there. So let's get back to what my slides are saying here. All right, so Mr. Bossman comes back to you and says, here's our data, what it should look like. And this is how I want you to build our APIs out based on this data. So loopback is very model driven. So once you get it started, it takes your model data and then builds out a REST API for you using that. So let's go ahead and get in there. So we're in our directory. So again, SLC, loopback, and we're going to create a model. Cool. So we're going to go with the catburger model. We're going to use the in-memory database, but a little bit later in the talk, I'll kind of show you how to add more data sources. Loopback gives you some options for what kind of base model class you want. Typically, you're going to want the persisted model, but there are a number of other ones, like an email kind of focused model. There's a user one, too, that we'll see in a minute. But we're going to just stick with the persisted model. Of course, we want to expose it with our REST API here for our demonstration. Loopback asks you about a custom plural if if it's one of those words that has a weird pluralization, but we're good with catburgers. Gives you the option to do it common for client side and server side, so we're going to stick with that. And now it's asking for our properties, right? So what did the boss man want? He wants a name, which we're going to have be a string. It's going to be required, and we don't want a default value, right? So,
Not required?
oh, did I do not required? That actually is good because now I can show you how to make it required by just jumping into the code. It's super easy. So this interactive CLI is awesome, but the code that it generates is also really accessible to you. So you'll see that in a minute. Help me remember to do that because I don't think I have it in my notes. So I think he said color, right? Also a string. We're going to say it is required, and we're going to make it calico. And then we'll do another one, patties. So you can have many patties on your cat burger. We're going to make it a number. It's not going to be required, and the default value, I think on a number it would be 0, but you can't have 0 burgers on a patty or patties on a burger. So we're going to make it 1. Right, and then you'll see here it says enter an empty property name when done, so we hit enter, right? So now let's go see what we got out of that. Let me go up and refresh. So now we've got our common models here, and this JSON file, you can see that, right? Is that big enough? You can see we got the name and the base class, and we've got our properties, right? So as I was saying, the name, so let's see, we want name to be required, right? And we want we want color to not be required, but it will have a default of calico. That works for us. And then patties is also not required. So you can see, like, the CLI is awesome, but this code is really easy to work with. So you can just get right in there and modify it as much as you want. You'll notice too that down here we also have some other stuff. Validations, relations, ACLs, and methods, which I will show you more of in a minute. Let's see where my slides are telling me to go. Right, so okay, so our engineer, who of course has glasses and a bow tie, because that's what all engineers look like. He does the loopback model, showed you the project structure. Oh, this part, yeah. So let me show you. We fire up our node application. It spits out the URL for the app, right? Which, if you look in the code, I'm going to skip over looking this up, but basically it just outputs the status in the file there. And I mentioned earlier, this is all built on top of Express, so if you're used to Express, this should all be, very accessible. But the really cool thing is getting into the API Explorer. So you get this for free with Loopback and Strong Loop. So if I go in here, I've got all of my REST API all built out for me with just that simple CLI. We put in our data, and we get all this stuff. As I mentioned, there's a base user class as well, but our cat burgers class was all built out for us. So let's take a look here. We get into the get. Of course, if we try it out, it gives us how you would do this, whether in the terminal or the request. It gives us an empty body back with a 200 response code because we don't have any data in there, right? So let's post some data. So right here, it kind of tells us what our data looks like. Where is it? I think if I click here, no, where is this? I think because I have it blown up so much. There it is. So if I click here, it will populate this for me, right? So name, we're going to say Fluffy. We're going to say the cat is black. We're going to give it 2 patties. And we don't really care about the ID because that's sort of auto-generated. You can leave it there. It's not going to give you a problem, but we'll take it out so we can see that it gets all auto-generated, right? So now it shows you what the response was from posting it. And we'll do another one really quickly, Flipper, because that's a very common cat name. And since we're going with common, we'll say purple. And actually, you know what? Let's just make no patties. Did I make, yeah, I have a default value, right? So let's try that out. That work? Yep. So now we got ID of 2 and the default one patty. So we can pop back up here to our get, right? And try it out again. And now there's our data from our response, right? So pretty nice. I mean, you can see how in like a 5-minute talk, I could plow through some commands here and have an API running really quickly. So all right, we added some cat burgers, so we're off to the races here. So all right, the boss man says, what if I want other data sources or many data sources? I've got yarn in a MySQL database and my knitting needles for my cat burger things on Postgres or something, right? So I'm not going to really dive too much into this, but just to show you, loopback data source. So again, like pretty much everything you could need to do, let's say yarn, is all right in the interactive CLI. So you can see here, there are a bunch of data sources, connectors that are supported by IBM and StrongLoop, but there are also a number that are community supported, like Couchbase is a good example, Elasticsearch. So you've got tons of options for your data sources. I'm actually just gonna bail out of that and not get too far down that path, right? So okay, he says, never mind, we're just gonna use the in-memory stuff for now. But I have an idea. Let's have a cat burger sleep ring status. Most people say sleeping, but I'm gonna say sleep ring. So no problem. I can get right in there and add that. And I actually should, yep. So I've already got a little snippet here that I'll show you. But so in the generation of our cat burger model, you'll see here that it's loopback created a JS file and a JSON file, right? The JSON file has our definition, but the JS file is, don't mind the JS issues. Our JS file, let me close that, there we go, gives us access to a number of things. An important one being setting up remote methods, right? So I want to set up a cat burger status method. So I can declare my logic by attaching it to the cat burger object that I pass into my function, and then I attach it as a remote method in this like loopback style, so that loopback knows that you've got this remote method that you want to do, right? So we don't need to spend too much time on the actual code here, but basically I'm saying like if it's between, what is it, 2 o'clock and 6 o'clock, our cats are awake, and if it's not, then they're probably sleeping, which makes sense, right? That's how my cats live. So let's just go ahead and run that. And we're going to go into our API Explorer, because I always forget. Well, first of all, I'll show you that it comes as one of these methods, doesn't it? Where'd it go? Did I save that file? Hang on a second here. Right, you're saved. No. Live coding. Oh, I know what's going on here. There we go. Let me restart my Node app. All right, so now let's refresh that Explorer, and we should see our cat burger status. There it is. Right, so now, and I always forget that there's like, it's the way this is structured, it has an API in front of it. I've done live coding before where I forget to put that in there and then it doesn't work, and then I'm like, what the heck? So there's our cat burger status. So our cats are awake, probably causing mischief, but of course if I get in here and I say, we'll replace that with a 7, and we will restart that puppy, and our cat should be asleep. Yep, cat burgers are sleep ring. So very easily add some remote methods in here. Say you have some sort of bookstore, you can query Amazon by ISBN. Is that what it's called? ISBN. You know, get some data or whatever you may do. There are pre-hooks, post-hooks. There are a number of things you can do in your JS file for your models. All right, so the boss man is super stoked. You deserve a seltzer and a raise. I didn't even plan this, but seltzer.
Where's the raise?
Yeah, the raise comes when I get back to the office. So, so we're stoked, right? But he says, okay, hang on. Let's add some ACLs. That ought to keep you busy for a while, right? Because that sounds like something that might be hard, but it's not. So again, we just get in here and say, I think it's just ACL. Yep, so again, we have this interactive CLI. I'll show you in a second, but basically you'll want to deny access to everything by default and then add it back. It's kind of common thing. So we're going to say all methods and properties, all access types, all users, deny. Excuse me, seltzer. Okay, so now we're going to add back some access. Say all methods and properties on the cat burger model, all access types only to the user owning the object can have access to it, right? So again, the what is yeah, don't mind my JS hint issues. The code that's generated from this is like super accessible. This is an array, right? So it's read in order. And the first thing it does is denies all access, and then adds back access to do, if you own the object, you can make some changes there, right? So the boss man's thinking this is going to take you a week or two and really earn your pay, but nope, you're good. So he's super happy, or she, as the case may be. Tim Gunn is usually pretty happy. Loopback saves the day. You can get this stuff out like super fast. Yeah, so that's kind of the gist of what I was going to go through. Loopback.io is the website. The docs are really good. In fact, I'll show you very quickly since I have a little bit of time here. If you go to the docs, there is a getting started, which kind of goes over a lot of what I was showing. And then there's getting started part 2, which walks you through building a coffee shop reviews application, which is it's very informative to walk through it and go through like an actual, building an actual application with users and reviews and coffee shops and setting up the relationships between the models and all that. So this is very helpful. And as I mentioned before, IBM's API Connect has more robust management of your APIs built into it. So if you need to do auth tokens or rate limits or any sort of security, that's all built in. It has loopback at its core, so it's an easy transition to it. And it also has a very generous free tier. I think it's like 50,000 API calls a month. So if you've got a small app, that should cover you. If you go enterprise, then you pay a little bit for it. Catburger.com is available, but they probably want some money for it. But there's something parked there. That's it. That's my talk. I normally don't like Q&A, but I guess since we have a lot of time, if anybody wants to ask me a question, you could, or we could talk about it afterwards. Yeah, okay, we'll talk afterwards. All right, I give back the rest of my time to the very popular hallway track, so please mingle and enjoy yourselves. Thanks.